Welcome to Here Comes the Boom, a Kentucky recruiting podcast brought to you by KSR and KSR Plus. This is your go-to for all Kentucky basketball recruiting news, and we've got a great show for you today. Before we get into it, as always, go and subscribe to KSR Plus. We've got a great deal going on, 50% off annual subscriptions using the promo code JOIN50. Got that up on the screen. We're going to have so much news on Kentucky football, Kentucky basketball, recruiting on both sides. So be sure to go on the message board, check out our articles on KSR Plus, and let's get into it because it was a big week. We had Big Blue Madness over the weekend. I know everyone saw Rick Pitino in attendance, but there were also some big recruits in attendance, namely Acaden Lewis. Acaden, a 2025 point guard, 4-star out of the D.C. area. He's one of Kentucky's last targets in this 2025 class. We've talked about it before. The big board for 2025 is narrowing down, and he's one of their prime targets that's set to make a decision in early November. Let's talk about him for a little bit because I put in an RPM on the On3 recruiting prediction machine with 60% confidence, which is industry standard, that Kentucky lands Acaden Lewis. I think that they are the front runner. You've got Duke and UConn that are the two other schools in his final three, but Duke just landed Caden Boozer, a point guard, and then UConn has had a point guard in Darius Adams committed in the 2025 class. That really leaves Kentucky as the last school. Obviously, Kentucky has a commitment from Jasper Johnson, but Jasper is more that combo guard role, and Acaden can also play some of that combo guard role. So I think that there's a good fit between the two of them. We've talked about it before. Acaden and Jasper played together at the Dame camp over the summer, and that's really where things kicked off of like, oh, we can actually play together. This works. I know they're both listed as point guards depending on the service, but they both see the fit that they can play together, and I think that Kentucky's in a very good position to land Acaden Lewis when he makes his decision in early November. But he wasn't the only recruit on campus. He was the only 2025 recruit, but they had a big recruit in 2026 4-star forward, Anthony Thompson. Thompson, he's a forward out of Western Reserve Academy in Ohio. I talked to him and his high school coach after the visit. You can find those stories up on KSR Plus. But to recap, he really enjoyed the trip, and Kentucky really enjoyed having him on campus, and they extended an offer. They've extended about 8 to 10 offers, I believe, in this 2026 class. They're starting to really prioritize some 2026s. He's a really good player, top 20 in the class, and hasn't really tapped into his full potential yet. Talking to his high school coach, Matt Garvey, he said that Anthony might even grow to be 6'10". So positionally, he's a big wing that can play a lot of different positions on the court. Super high potential, and it's a guy that Kentucky's getting in on early. He just visited Ohio State. He's got visits coming up to Michigan and Michigan State. So it's a long way to go with that one. 2026 prospect, but he's someone that Kentucky has offered and has made a priority. He also said that he wants to get back on campus. Kentucky invited him to come out for any game, any practice. So expect to see him on campus again soon. The last guy I want to touch on for just a second is 2028 Jordan Mitchell. He was on campus for Big Blue Madness. Truthfully, there's really not too much to say about him. 2028 is a long ways away, but he's someone to keep an eye on down the road. Let's get into talking about another one of Kentucky's top 2025 targets. We talked about Acaden Lewis, and there have been talks throughout this recruiting cycle about the package deal between Acaden Lewis and Caleb Wilson. So Caleb was just on a visit to Tennessee over the weekend. He's about to visit Georgia Tech this upcoming weekend. While he was on that Tennessee visit, he posted a picture in the Tennessee orange, and Acaden Lewis is out there commenting on his Instagram post. These guys have continued to go back and forth. I talked to Acaden after his Big Blue Madness visit, and he said he'd love to play with Caleb. Caleb would love to play with him. it's just hard to really talk about a package deal when neither guys are committed yet. But Kentucky's the only team on both of their lists. So I like where Kentucky stands with Caleb Wilson. I'm not ready to put it in RPM pick yet. He's still got this Georgia Tech visit coming up. I still expect him to visit Arkansas at some point. UNC is still involved. He took that official visit a couple weeks ago. So there's a lot of schools that are pushing for a commitment, but I wouldn't trade Kentucky's position with anyone else right now for Caleb Wilson. I think that they're in the prime spot. I believe a decision is still expected sometime that November, December date, maybe later, but we'll see what happens there. I expect Acaden Lewis to make his decision before Caleb Wilson, and if Acaden chooses Kentucky, you can bet that he'll be in Caleb's ear trying to get a commitment out of him. So keep an eye on how things go with this Georgia Tech visit and if he schedules any other upcoming visits, but I still like where Kentucky stands. They've carried a lot of momentum ever since that September official visit. That's really the big news of the week. There's not a whole lot more to talk about. Chris Sinak is a guy that's he's got a visit to Arkansas, I believe, coming up. I think Arkansas is in a decent spot there. LSU involved, Kentucky's still involved. So that's really the main gist of things. You got Michael Brown. But we're going to talk about a 2025 Kentucky commit, Malachi Moreno, coming up here soon, talking to his high school coach. Stay tuned for that. All right. Actually, now is probably the time to film. Before we talk to Great Crossing's head coach, let's chat for a second about our good friend Andy Ludicky and My Perfect Franchise. Are you a displaced corporate executive or wanting to put your career in your own hands? Or are you an experienced entrepreneur wanting to diversify? Well, Andy Ludicky and MyPerfectFranchise.net can help. Andy is a huge college sports fan and franchise veteran, having owned multiple franchises and businesses. Using his expertise, he helps others find their American dream through a very thorough consultation and evaluation process. Call Andy, put your life and career in your own hands. Best of all, his services are 100% free to you, so what do you have to lose? Find your perfect franchise at myperfectfranchise.net. Welcome back. I'm joined now by Great Crossing head coach Steve Page. You may know him because he's coaching a Kentucky commit in Malachi Moreno this season. I know that a lot of Kentucky fans may not follow Kentucky high school as much, but now with two in-state commits, one of them that's still playing in-state in Malachi Moreno, you're going to want to follow along. Coach, thank you for joining us today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
First off, I just want to ask about Malachi's game. I know you've broken down his game over on KSR Plus a lot, but where do you think he's improved the most heading into this season? And what do you think fans can expect with his game?
Yeah, so, he's always been, he's been with us since he's an eighth grader. So he's always been a really, really good defender. And he's improving around the basket, but he's improving, and he really, in all of our, fall workouts and stuff, he kind of plays when we do our open gym stuff, he's been playing point guard. So, and it's really just, try to expand his game and handle the ball. And we want him to, I've had discussions obviously with the coaches at Kentucky and have watched some of the film. So while we want to do what we do best, at the same point, we also want to help Malachi out and try to put him in some situations that, handling the ball out top and, in the 5 out with that trail 5 and put him in some of those situations, especially when he doesn't rim run. So those are the areas I think you'll see the biggest improvement. His 3-point shot. We always laugh. Everybody asks him, is coach going to let you take shots? I've never told him not to. He just, a 7-footer in high school basketball. Sometimes they don't take as many as maybe he could, but I think you'll see a lot more threes. And I think he's going to shoot them at a pretty good clip. And so those are probably the 3-point shot, handling the ball. Those will probably be the 2 biggest areas that folks will see a difference from previous seasons with us.
And Coach, I've talked to you several times before, but the KSR Plus subscribers over on the KS board, they haven't had the chance to ask you too many questions. So I'm going to pull some of the questions that they asked.
Okay.
Starting with Katzen Shelby 33, who asked, what's one intangible Malachi brings to the team that's elevated the Great Crossing program?
Leadership. Yeah, like last night he was, we had our tryout / second practice, and you could just see the leadership and we were having kids coming in and out, and he's like, "Coach, I'm not coming out. I need to work on my conditioning." And honestly, to talking to a couple of his teammates, going, "Y'all don't need to go out either. We need to work on our conditioning here. That's the most important thing." So I just think that leadership and obviously an incredible kid. It's not a secret that every prep school in the country wanted him to come play for him this season, and obviously he chose to stay and play with his buddies. The intangible, that leadership, and then he does not care one bit. We need him to obviously score. We need him to rebound, but he's not a stats guy. He doesn't care about that stuff. He looks at the big board at the home visitor at the end of the game and see if we have more points. That's what he cares about.
And then we've got a couple questions here kind of asking about Malachi's physicality and preparation for the college game. So is Malachi on any type of weight training program entering his senior season? And how long do you think it'll take someone like him to adjust to the speed and physicality of college?
Yeah, same thing. So I've talked to Coach Towner over there at the strength coach at UK, and we do have him, on a kind of a plan that he's doing a couple 3 days a week. Could he do more? Absolutely. But you'll see it. I think flexibility is probably one of the biggest things they want to see. His strength, of course, but his flexibility, being able to get down at 7'1" and be able to be very versatile defensively, to be able to switch out and guard guards, in the pick and roll situation. Coach Pope's really talked to him about wanting him to sit more. So a lot of the stuff that they've kind of asked him to work is a lot of band work. So working on the flexibility of his hips and hamstrings and that nature, outside of the strength, but stuff that you won't necessarily seeing him walking down the street.
And then Mac5521 wants to know, how does Malachi handle pressure situations? And can you give an example of when he has stepped up in a critical moment during a game?
Yeah, I mean, we can use the Lexington Catholic game last year when we're down 3 points with, obviously Vince Dawson's was the headliner, so to speak, makes those 2 threes, back-to-back threes. But, obviously Malachi had a huge rebound. And the one thing I liked about his rebound earlier in the season last year, he had a similar situation and he got to about half court and, kind of the awareness of the clock, he let one go with 3 or 4 seconds left instead of getting to where he could get. So I thought his poise in that situation to realize that, hey, I've got time, I can get a little deeper, and then, spot his teammate who had just made a three. And in Kentucky high school basketball, there's no bigger pressure of playing in. Obviously, you want the bigger pressures when you get to Rupp, but you obviously have to get there. So, we're a program that's been successful over a couple of years, but we hadn't been able to make that next step of, getting to Rupp Arena. And I thought that poise under that pressure situation, not to rush, to realize that he had time to get as deep as he did, and then also locate a teammate for that shot.
And then something I want to ask you about, obviously being Malachi's coach, being a coach at Great Crossing, you're also a coach in the state of Kentucky. What have you made of Kentucky's increased effort to recruit in-state talent? Obviously, this 2025 class has Jasper Johnson and Malachi. So what's it like seeing the focus on in-state talent?
Yeah, I mean, it's really cool. I've never played against well, I take that back. We did play Trent Noah back when he was a sophomore in a scrimmage, and got to know Travis a little bit, coached the Kentucky Ohio team, and just playing them. And it's and then obviously, like you said, Jasper, and I know Talon Kinney's obviously down at Overtime Elite now, but another Kentucky kid that I think they're really high on. So do we have more talent than we did the past 5 or 6 years? Yeah, maybe with the the Talon Kinney's, Malachi and Jasper kind of higher rankings than what we've seen. But at the same time, they do seem to, I mean, those are the guys that they're putting supreme effort of recruiting because, again, nothing anybody hadn't heard over and over and over, but Coach Pope has totally stressed number 9, play for what's on the front of the jersey, win number 9. And he knows that, that the Kentucky kids are, ones that have grown up loving them. So if he's got talented kids, he's going to do his best not to let them get out of the state. And, it was good to have obviously Travis was recruited by Coach Cal. But I think Coach Pope coming in really solidified that for him. And my guess is he probably even had a better feeling of what he was hearing from Coach Pope than even, kind of the recruiting process he got before, even though he had committed before.
And the last thing I want to ask about is just your great crossing team this year. What can fans expect? And what kind of team do you have in place this year?
Yeah, so last year we went 36-2. This year, if we go 36-2, we're going to be really, really incredible because our schedule is brutal. We play in the city of Palms, which is the most prestigious tournament in the United States, before Christmas, and I think we get back at like 6:00 on the 24th and get back on a bus at 6 a.m. on the 26th to go to Myrtle Beach for the Beach Ball Classic, which is another, national tournament. We're playing Bel Air, Texas, who has Sheldon Henderson, a Duke recruit. I think even a Kentucky recruit from what I've seen here recently. So our schedule's brutal, but what you're going to see is we're going to be, us and a couple other teams are going to be the favorites in Kentucky. And we, just like last year, we felt like not taking anything away from Lyon County, they beat us, but we felt like we were the best team going into the, into the state tournament. We let one slip away last year, again, to a great team, to great players, to great people. But we've got kids at 4 seniors who've started since they were freshmen. A couple of them are actually 5th-year starters because they were COVID seniors. So in the state of Kentucky, they allowed that extra year. So, we expect to have a lot of experience, a lot of confidence. And, we expect somebody's going to have to bring it and, play their best game to beat us. Now, having said that, the 11th region is brutal like it is every year, and we're going to have a dogfight just to get out of our own region. So we're not going to take any teams lightly, but we feel supremely confident in what we can accomplish.
Well, Coach, we'll be following along this year. Thanks for coming on today. It was a pleasure speaking with you, and hope to talk to you again soon.
Yeah, anytime.
The final thought for today, Kentucky is in a really good spot with Acaden Lewis. I know a lot of people were maybe expecting a commitment during his time at Big Blue Madness. I was never expecting something like that. He's remained consistent with his talks about an early November commitment date. I still expect that to be the case. And I think Kentucky is in a very, very good spot. If they can get Acaden before the early signing period, a 3-man recruiting class of Jasper Johnson, Malachi Moreno, and Acaden Lewis is a great way to kick things off. And then you put all your focus on landing a guy like Caleb Wilson, and Mark Pope is cooking in his first year on the recruiting trail. A lot of things to be excited about. If you're a Kentucky basketball fan, you're going to want to stay tuned to all of this. So be sure to subscribe to KSR Plus. We're going to have news out daily, hourly. It's going to be a lot of recruiting news over on the KS board. Thank you all for joining us. We'll be back again next week. See you again soon.